Hi, I'm Kevin Cummings. At Investors Bank, we believe in helping our local neighborhoods and improving the lives of all we serve. We're a different bank that makes a difference for our employees, clients, and communities. That's why we're proud to support public television and the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Hackensack Meridian Health, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Rowan University, educating New Jersey leaders, partnering with New Jersey businesses, transforming New Jersey's future. The New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. And by the Fidelco Group.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Steve Adubato here. You know, one of the many great things about One-on-One is we speak to the most extraordinary educators anywhere in the state and nation. Yeah, that's you. I'm talking about you. Molly Ziegelstein is a kindergarten teacher at Fernbrook Elementary, based?
Randolph,
New Jersey. Now, you're born and raised right in that area.
Yep, Succasunna.
Can you spell it?
Succasunna.
I'm so impressed. You teach kids, and there are five-ish? 5 to 6?
Times 3.
What?
About 15, 18 kids per class every year.
No, I meant age-wise.
Oh.
15, 18, okay. We could do this. I swear we can.
Yep, 5, 6-year-olds.
Did you always say to yourself, before we run a clip, this is part of our Classroom Close-Up, well, the Classroom Close-Up initiative, produced, and it's been making a big difference in the public television world for many years with the New Jersey Education Association. We're about to show a clip from you in a minute, but did you always want to be a kindergarten teacher?
Kindergarten definitely was not on my radar when I thought of going into the teaching profession, but I did always want to be a teacher. I was surrounded by wonderful educators all throughout my education, and that's definitely why I went to education.
Well, this clip you're about to see from Classroom Close-Up talks about this initiative. A lot of it's about choice time and dealing with our kids who, at incredibly young ages, dealing with anxiety, dealing with pressures, dealing with stress. Listen, isn't there enough time to do that later on? You know. Well, this is Classroom Close-Up. Check it out.
Children and playtime. 2 images that should go hand in hand when you think of kindergarten.
That's one window.
My earliest memory of being kindergarten is coming in and coloring and learning how to cut.
But the fact is, kindergarten has changed quite a bit.
Today, we're asking children to learn to read and learn to write and so much more. There's been just such a shift, I think, from the time that I was in school. I was stunned at the pressure that was put on these little 5- and 6-year-olds.
And that stress on young children can have devastating effects.
Research was showing that later in life, these kids that had such pressure at 5 and 6 had really, really adverse outcomes like suicide and depression and stress because they didn't have a chance to be a kid. And so we decided, how are we going to change that in our district? And play was the answer. Boys and girls, we know that choice time goes. Choice time is an hour of play that fosters social emotional development for students. More importantly, choice time is a time for kids to be kids and take risks without a consequence. All right, friends, what are our 3 this week?
Post office.
We will all sit together in a circle and they come up with ideas that they want to play that week. Then they'll make a proposal, they'll plan out what they're going to do.
So you guys are working on your proposal?
Yeah.
What's your proposal? What are you guys doing? Oh, nail salon.
Do we have string yet? No.
Typically, it'll take 2 to 3 days for them to actually build what their center looks like and build all the different pieces of their center.
Right. You dip your finger.
And then they play. They assign roles to each person in the group.
Okay, how do I get my nails done?
Red.
Wait, what color are we doing?
Here. Red.
Red?
You
Okay.
can't. That's
Oh,
color.
thank you. This is the change?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's pause, take a moment to meet with your group to discuss what we're gonna talk about during crowd share. We have them stop and they take time to reflect on what they did that day. And I'll try to refer back to what we talked about when we met before they started playing. How about we start with the nail salon?
We are proud of that we work together and we share.
I have noticed a huge change in students once implementing choice time. Bottom line is that there's less stress. Giving them this outlet to just be kids has reduced the amount of stress and anxiety that I have seen in the past. And it's just an incredible thing to see and be able to offer to our students.
Maybe you guys want to sit and eat now.
Just incredible. By the way, we saw our friend Sean Spiller, who's one of the executives, one of the leaders of the NJEA, my neighbor in the town of Montclair. He was having a good time. They were having a good time. How much of a good time do you have?
It's awesome just to be able to see kids be kids and in such a relaxed environment and let them grow as people at this little age during play.
What are the differences you see? Some of the biggest differences you see in these kids?
I think the biggest takeaway that kids walk away from is they find their voice in kindergarten through play. They find who they are, and because we're able to give them this relaxed environment and this fun playtime, we are able to increase academic rigor. So it's a great thing to be able to give them this time to let out and be a child and have this have the playtime, and then we're able to increase academic rigor because they're not stressed, they don't have anxiety, they're in such a relaxed environment.
What's it like for you? Clearly cares so much about kids. When you see a kid really stressed, really feeling a degree of anxiety that he or she should just not experience at 5 or 6 years of age, what's it like for you?
You just want to take all their worries and it away, and we are able to offer that to them in just multiple ways. Let them explore and let them choose. Giving them choice empowers them to really rise to the occasion and do what's good for them and discover themselves and their different learning styles and what they do best.
What's causing a lot of the stress? I mean, I know a lot of kids are dealing with divorce in their families. They're dealing with academic pressures, right? What else is going on for them?
I think it was in their peers, peer groups and.
Oh boy, are you talking about? I'm sorry for doing this. Our daughter Olivia is 7, turning 8 as we do this program. She talks about who her friends are, but then she's not friends with these other kids because they don't want to be friends with her, and that's stressful.
Right, like even at 5, we see that, but fostering really within choice time, we get a good sense of community and bringing them together. I feel like that's totally
no clicking, no clicks.
You would think. I feel like having this program enables them to really just form a community and get rid of that whole idea of cliques and all that.
Break some barriers down.
For sure. Yeah.
Choice time any different from your experience between little boys, little girls?
At the beginning of the year, for sure, you definitely have, boys are in blocks and girls are in kitchen and doing dramatic play. As the year progresses, each child really focuses in on what their hobbies are and what their likes and dislikes are, and really you see them come together. And we have, in the clip you just saw, we had a post office and we had nail salon and restaurant all mixed. Children mixing in and doing what they love. So
I don't know why it was
they definitely progress, I would say.
You ever ask kids what they want to do when they grow up?
The first day of school every year.
You do?
Yep.
I remember our daughter when she was 5. She's in kindergarten in the great Montclair public school system. I said, Olivia, what do you want to be when you grow up? And apparently she had just been with my wife at a nail salon. She said, I want to be a nail saloner. So I said, what's a nail saloner? And she said, someone who owns, it was a made-up word, obviously, But it was fascinating. She somehow remembers that getting kids to talk about who and what they want to be.
Right. I think also through choice time, a lot of the children bring in their outside experiences. So like if they were at Costco over the weekend, they come in and they're building up a Costco, and that's their world.
Right.
And also it really is fostering this idea of like social capital and being a good citizen and what that means to contribute to your community. So when they go out and they, we see that they want to be a postman or
woman.
Yeah, or postman or woman.
You teach leadership, team building, social skills.
Problem solving is huge. So it's awesome to be able to see that. And I really do feel like this is a foundation for what they're going to end up being later on in life.
So Molly, I'm sure people are tired of me saying this, but I'm going to say it to you anyway. On behalf of all the parents with children who have benefited greatly from the public schools and from the exceptional public school educators like yourself, I just want to say thank you. I know I speak for a lot of people out there. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're making a difference.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Hopefully we're making a difference. We'll be right back with One-on-One right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're pleased to welcome Joe Licata, who is CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Lodi and Hackensack and Teaneck. Good to see you, Joe.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Talk about I grew up in a boys club in Newark, New Jersey. Talk about, this is the Boys and Girls Club.
Of course.
Of 3 communities.
3.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so we've been in Lodi since 1949, incorporated, and then chartered as a Boys and Girls Club, or a boys club at the time in '51, serving the kids of Lodi, originally boys.
Right.
Whose families were working in the war effort in World War II. Dad was overseas. Mom was working in Cedar Village in the airplane factory in Woodridge over there. From there, fast forward.
Part of the war effort.
Yes. So one gentleman, Frank Plescia, was gathering the guys and saying, "Hey, don't get in trouble. Let's figure out something else to do." And he would play sports with them, baseball, basketball, and that was the birth of the Boys Club in Lodi. From there, fast forward to the 80s. Became Boys and Girls Club of Lodi. Late 2000s, we started a club in Hackensack, and this year we are opening a club actually next week in Teaneck, New Jersey.
That's awesome. By the way, for those of us who have history with the boys or the Boys and Girls Clubs, first Denzel Washington's done some great things. He grew up in the Yonkers area,
Yes.
right? But for some of us who were born and raised in Newark, my grandfather, who I never knew, died well before I was born, was the first executive director of the Boys Club in Newark, New Jersey. Really? And so we had a long history, and I appreciate the organization very much. It taught a lot of us how to swim and do some other things. Yeah. For the kids that you serve, how many, by the way?
We served last year over 2,000 children.
What kind of things are they facing?
Nationally, we do have a crisis in this country, and we're a small piece in fixing that crisis. But there's over 15 million school-age children that have nowhere to go after school. That's throughout the country.
Where do they go if they don't have the Boys and Girls Club?
I don't know. And that's scary, isn't it?
It sure is.
And I'm sure there's other organizations and school programs, but what we do as a club is, as you know, you were there, much different than what a school district can do.
There's teaching, right? There's educational component that is very strong. You help kids with their homework.
Yeah.
And a place to do their homework that's safe.
Exactly. When a kid comes in our doors, we want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure they have fun. And we have 3 things we do with them. We instill a sense of competency in them, usefulness, and belonging.
About confidence.
We do.
Yeah,
that's part of that competency factor. So we praise their successes because many of them don't get that praise, whether it's in school or at home, and we tell them to build on that.
But you also set parameters for how they conduct themselves with others.
Of course.
Talk about that.
It's a delicate line we travel with our kids because we don't want to be school. We don't want to be, hey, you do this, you're going to the principal's office, and then you might not be able to come back here, you're going to get suspended. Does it happen? Yes, very rarely, because we want to work with those kids that need that extra help.
Which is why you have mentors.
Exactly.
Talk about the mentors.
So we have a mentoring program, and we take those kids and we build on their sense of that competency. We work on their social interaction. These are kids that just don't know how to deal with the pressures of life because, hey, growing up today is tough. Not only do you have the books, the teacher, the mom, the dad, hopefully, but you have the internet, you have social media, you have all these external factors that hit your daily life so hard as a young kid today, and we have to help them navigate that. And that's all it is. It's just helping them navigate the day-to-day issues that they come across.
You know, it's interesting. You're a nonprofit. We're a nonprofit. I have this conversation with so many CEOs of nonprofits. Raising money ain't easy, is it?
No.
Who supports it?
We get great support from various individuals, from your $1.50 donations to your
corporations step up too.
Oh yeah,
I know the investors. Folks told us about it.
We wouldn't be here without some large contributors that help us every year. PSE&G, Insera Supermarkets, and the Insera
Larry
family.
and Sarah, they're great stuff, and investors, right?
Yeah, and their store started in Lodi. Their first store, Patsy's, right near where the boys' club in Lodi was. So we couldn't be around without them. We also have the Patty family, JP Patty Roofing, and then Paul and Virginia Patty. That family supports us still today.
Yeah, it's interesting. People think being a head of a nonprofit, you administer, you run things, you do all those things, and you raise money 24/7. What is the program? Is it help me on this, Nicole? Is it the Keystone Club? I've heard good things about it. What is it?
Yeah, so it's very hard to keep teens engaged when they get to a certain age. So what we do, we have a program. It's the Keystone Club. Kids create their own club within our club, and it's about civic engagement and volunteerism.
Define that. Give me an example.
So, for instance, they have to work on a national project every year, and to keep their charter as a Keystone Club with our national office, they have to work on that project. One year, the project was poverty, where our high school age students got cardboard boxes, slept outside for the whole weekend, and had to live on $1 a day.
What was it like for them?
It was life-changing. And these are kids that think that they're in poor circumstances. And I always try to say to the kids, and even my staff and our volunteers, there's someone way worse off than you somewhere. And you have to use that as your way to navigate throughout life. And it opened their eyes. It really did. This year, their project is on diversity. And, you know, because of the national conversation going on in this country,
immigration,
our kids are stepping up.
So how do you teach them about diversity?
You know, they're teaching themselves. So right now what they're doing is compiling data, and they're going into high schools and cafeterias during lunch and asking kids questions and surveying them about their feelings on diversity.
They're doing it themselves?
Yeah. With guidance, obviously.
Sure.
We have an advisor.
Mentors.
Yeah, and then they're going to take that back and see, hey, why is this generation thinking this way, but those 10 years older are thinking this way? And how to bridge that gap. It's a big project, and I'm interested to see what happens at the end.
I've been told that the Youth of the Year with the Boys and Girls Clubs, is it statewide?
Yes. So
it comes out of your area.
Yeah. So the highest honor a child can receive in a Boys and Girls Club is to be named the Youth of the Year. It's a long process. You have to be in high school. It's a scholarship contest at the end result. Once a local Youth of the Year is selected, that local Youth of the Year goes to the state competition. And at the state competition, they're competing with 22 other children, or teenagers rather.
What about last year's
So last year's
right?
National Youth of the Year, which is for all of the Boys and Girls Clubs in the United States of America, Puerto Rico, and on military bases in the world, was from Clifton, New Jersey.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Who was that kid? You remember his
Carlos is his name.
Carlos
Polanco, I believe his last name is.
What was that
He's
like
amazing.
for this kid?
He's amazing. You can check him out. He's on TV all the time. He's all over the country, you know, helping kids. And
he's a role model for everybody else in the Boys and Girls Club.
And it's great for me as a CEO because I can say to the kids, you know, because sometimes you hear National Youth of the Year, that'll never happen. It's going to go to X, Y, or Z.
Happened to Carlos.
It happened to Carlos, who's 3 miles away from our Lodi club, you know, and 4 miles away from Hackensack. And so,
Joe Licata, I want to thank you for all the work you do with the young men and women at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Lodi, Hackensack, and Teaneck, New Jersey. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
Steve.
Good stuff. Stay with us. One-on-one. We'll be right back.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are, in fact, speaking with Dr. Denise Fyffe, who is part of the forum tonight at Kessler Foundation, talking about veterans, their issues, particularly those with spinal cord injuries. For those who may not be familiar with the research, could you talk about it?
Sure. So, Steve, my study is really working with spinal cord injured veterans at Kessler and the East Orange VA, that is the VA of New Jersey healthcare system.
Both organizations?
Yes. So what we've noticed is that there are some veterans who are at Kessler who don't even know about access to care at the VA. These are veterans who are probably injured many years after they served in the military and haven't had much, they have private insurance, but haven't really used the VA for their health care services. And so what we found is that after a spinal cord injury, we know it's a very costly injury to live with many...
Because?
Because of the medical complications that are associated with the injury, including pressure ulcers, including the need for a wheelchair, that in terms of spasticity, medications, pain management, those kinds of things all complicate a person living with the injury, as well as wanting to get back into your home after such a traumatic injury. So there's, being in the hospital. So picture it, Steve. A veteran is at Kessler, they've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, and now
they're rehabbing.
They're getting their rehab at Kessler, and they're due to go back home. But going back home requires a lot of adjustment. Your home needs to be modified. What if your wheelchair can't fit through the door? Well, interestingly enough, through our work with the East Orange VA, what we've learned is that there are opportunities for access to resources that will adjust their home, provide them with the wheelchair, give them opportunities in terms of aid and attendant to help them in their homes. So that's not just helping them, that's helping them and their families. And so our study is actually working with the spinal cord injured veterans as well as their caregivers in their homes to learn more about access to these supportive kind of resources. And really, it's filling a really important gap in terms of their care.
I'm curious about the impact of service-connected disability compensation. This issue keeps coming up a lot, and I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure folks at home know what it means.
Yeah, sure. So after when spinal cord injured veteran is injured, the time of injury is really key. So if a veteran is injured during their military service, they may be eligible for service-connected disability compensation from the VA. So actually, let me take a step back. Being service-connected is a designation made by the VA based on your medical picture.
You mean it happened while in service?
While the injury was sustained during military service, that's correct. And that designation is usually derived by an array of medical examinations and assessments that are done both in the VA and outside the VA.
What's the compensation issue?
Well, if a veteran is deemed service-connected, they may be eligible for VA disability compensation, which is a monthly compensation that is provided by the VA to a service-connected veteran and or eligible family member, so it could potentially, also service the family as well. Again, if their injury is sustained in the line of duty and or if they had an injury or disease that was aggravated during military service.
Because I have worked with you before and I've gotten to know you a little bit, my sense is that beyond your clinical expertise and your advanced education and dealing with veterans in so many ways, on the human side, I'm curious about this. You've dealt with so many veterans who are dealing with real challenges, veterans who want to not just have a quality of life like the rest of us, but work. What is your sense of how hard the veterans you work with work?
Well, that's an excellent question as well. We know that after a spinal cord injury, the employment rate of our veterans does reduce dramatically, and that it's tricky to work through. But one of our projects, another project that I'm working with John O'Neill on, is looking at
the foundation.
At the foundation, yes. It's and we're working with our collaborators at the Tampa VA on this project. We're looking at veterans who are striving to work. So those who are actually looking for work and trying to facilitate access to vocational experiences for them. So that's another project that we're really trying to tap into employment challenges, address some of the barriers, and work with some of the...
What are some of those barriers?
Well, some of those barriers include employers' bias about people with disabilities.
The stigma?
The stigma that's definitely has been observed by our participants. In addition to, living with a spinal cord injury, we know that they're, again, going back to the medical complications. So there can be, unfortunately, absenteeism that is that's experienced in a job because of medical complications that may be unexpected and on the job. And then what do? You have to go home and take care of them or something like that.
A lot of chronic pain as well.
A lot of chronic pain. Yep. We know that there are bowel and bladder accidents that sometimes happen on the job. And that's when you do have to go home, right, to take care of that before you come back. So we know that there are a number of issues related to that. Whether or not, our veterans have someone to help get them up in the morning and get them out the door to work.
They don't all have that.
They don't all have access to that. And so all of those things, again, getting access to those kinds of resources can be very beneficial to our veterans getting back to work after an SCI. And I have to tell you, they have the energy and the motivation to get back to work, in spite of the challenges that they're facing.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Hackensack Meridian Health, PSE&G, Rowan University, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, and by the Fidelco Group. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com, covering all NJ has to offer, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
Hi, I'm Eric. You might see me as an ordinary person, but I've been living with a brain injury for nearly 2 years. One of my struggles is short-term memory loss. At Opportunity Project, I'm given hope and support, and I've gained my comments back through the job placement program. Despite my challenges, I have a reason to keep improving. Today, even though life has changed me, I believe that anything is possible.
If you have a brain injury, you don't have to face your road to recovery alone.